Hey, how's it going? It's me, Matt, the Aborted Soul, and I'm here to talk about jobs. A lot of people seem to be fearing, they're xenophobic of foreign people streaming into the borders, and at the same time, they're afraid of our jobs being all flown overseas, exported. These are both symptoms, believe it or not, they're both symptoms of one problem. People are always asking, those damn, a lot of people, not asking, addressing the ideas that politicians aren't doing enough to protect American jobs. Look at the politicians, look at these, people allowing our jobs to export. Who's responsible for that? Who's responsible for that? For one, taxes and extra layers of bureaucracy. The only thing a government can ever do to help promote or stop something, really, all they can do is tax it to any varying degree, forbid it, make it more difficult with paperwork and registration and stuff like that, or not stop it. On the other spectrum, they could not promote it, same thing as not stop it, or fund it, make it easier, give them tax breaks comparative to other things, promoting it sort of as a natural selection sort of thing, or rather not a natural selection, but a governmental selection. And this sort of leads to dissatisfying results. All the time it's these seem like well-meaning enough people, but I don't think they really understand the factors at work, the complex machine of economics. When you get down to it, you just have to sort of Ludwig von Mises style, just throw your hands in the air and say, hey, this, you should stop fucking with it. Just stop fucking with it. The economy will do fine by its own. It's going to spike and dip, and sometimes things like making sure currency is regulated, building roads, shit like that. There are arguments to be made for that, but by and large, things like tariffs, not in wartime, just in peacetime, tariffing things to protect local industries that are inefficient and don't match foreign efficiency. Do what you do well. Whatever you do well, do that well, and don't penalize trade. Okay, but what's the source of all this stuff? Labor, the American labor movement. Now, a lot of people are wondering, how the hell can you, are you going to claim that the American labor is making foreign people stream over the border? I'm not even talking about labor corruption. I'm talking about labor doing exactly what it claims to do. Not any of that, Hoffa type stuff. No, under the table deals or breaking of kneecaps or anything labor is known for. Their normal villainy. I'm talking about straight up front, doing prescribed to the letter what they're saying they're doing. If they succeeded admirably, admittedly, them doing that, in fact, is what is pulling the jobs out from under people in this country, and not this country, but America. And what is causing distress in, towards American border policy, and what's making immigrants come over. What you've done in guaranteeing, and I'm not talking about freedom, I'm all for freedom, but increasing the average person's wages and trying to, make things equal with opposing forces and controlling supply and demand and manipulating with the market and fucking around with it. Not that I'm saying, it's sort of on your own behalf. It's really complicated. If you want to know the issue, what actually caused it, whether it was right or wrong or whatever, ultimately was American labor. Just to explain, them, so there's supply and demand. See, there's these people that want stuff built. They can't build them all themselves, probably, nor would they want to. And if it's not efficient to build robots, and, back when labor was taken off in America, robots didn't even exist, really. At least not in a production sense. So they needed labor. Slavery had been gone, thank God, but what was left was human beings. Cheap labor could make it. So American production started gearing up, and people were dehumanized because all that was important was the bottom line, and these short-sighted people that own plants would just hire the worst people possible and the least trained and so on and so forth, and they would ignore quality and market demands and stuff like this, and this drove the price of labor down and allowed inferior products to flood the markets and stuff like that. But even taking the people who are paying market wages or slightly higher or even somewhat considerably higher than market wages and making a good, fine product, ultimately what happens there when you have labor pushing and pushing and pushing, there's a lot of things they want concessions on, but mostly it's two things. Hours, money per hour, like wages of some sort, and then benefits. Wages and benefits, wages and benefits, wages and benefits. And these two things both cost a lot of money. They fuck with the bottom line, and they jack the price up of production. There's two types of inflation, economic inflation. There's demand pull inflation, which is like everyone in the world like wants red sweaters one day. They see, some famous person like Fantastic Babblings wears a red sweater, and they're like, I need to get me a red sweater. So everyone on earth rushes in and goes to JCPenney and says, give me that red sweater. And so all the red sweaters disappear off the shelves. People produce them, they go, oh no, give me what, somebody goes to the producer and says, I want red sweaters now. And so all the plants churn up and start building and pumping out giant red sweaters, one after the other, after the other, after the other. And at first, it's a demand pull that produces this giant wake and all this profit to be made, and red sweaters become rare because everyone buys them up, and then the price jacks up, and then when they hit the market, they're still jacked, and it just keeps going until the market is so inundated and flooded with all these extra red sweaters that the market price gets depressed, and then that craze passes, so now you have a flood of extra too many red sweaters, and that, it's economics, right? That's a good type, believe it or not, that is the good type of inflation. It's a good type of inflation. A bad type of inflation would be cost push inflation. There's demand pull, which is people just want to grab at it. Cost push inflation is where the cost of, like, let's say, making peanut butter, like peanuts, the cost of labor in the fields of making peanuts goes up. They go, oh, we want good gerbs. Give us money. We want, benefits and help our teefers because we're picking all these whatevers, We're farming this, and believe it or not, these people are probably right. They deserve something for something that they're making with their hands, the bread of their hands, to talk about Abraham Lincoln a little bit, So they deserve compensation for it, so they fight, they organize, and these two pressures are fighting. I'm not trying to draw any, like, who is right and who is wrong, because I honestly, I wouldn't be able to riddle that out for you, if you're even trying to take the stance of right and wrong. But what actually happened, if you just want to take fact and not make any judgments about it, is that labor and production costs struggle, and ultimately labor just keeps winning and pushing production costs up and up and up and up and up and up and up. So if you're a producer, okay, you're looking at production costs that used to be down here, they're up here. People don't want this product more, but now they're having to pay more. So there's cost push inflation. It's gone up, it's inflated, the bad type of inflation that fucks with the market. So you're about to go under. People aren't willing to pay that much for it, and you've got a way out. There is cheap labor over here in, Zaporozhye with people who are willing to do it for rice. So then this cost goes here, this plus whatever the materials, even if you have to ship them over there, are only this high. The American cost is this high, and they make it, can sell it for half as much. So they do this. Then the other guy who actually is supporting American wages, let's say he's a diehard, made in America, fuck those foreigners who want to get jobs and eat food, and fuck them for trying to partake in, this sort of a system. But I'll pull my own. I think it's evident how I feel about the issue. But the issue is, this guy is really got to charge that much for it, and there's this other guy charging this much for it. His business collapses. Or let's say you have tariffs supporting it. So now it's not really the government does some magical thing and it just magically equals out and makes it, the thing better. You as the customer are being forced for the foreign shit to pay as much as this guy would charge. So now that's like cost push inflation, but it's artificial. It's a tax. Like, you buy luggage, and on a price tag of luggage, you look at it and it says $42 luggage. Really what it is it's $12 luggage and $30 tariff. There's something like 200 and some odd luggage jobs, just as an example, in America right now, like luggage production jobs. These jobs are protected by tariffs that penalize the entire market. This excuse of, we're protecting American goods and American producers. Each one of those jobs per head in what the consumer pays in taxes, in tariffs alone, is over $1 million per person, which means it would be cheaper if we gave them $750,000 per person per year. This is every single year per head, to sit on their fat asses or their skinny asses or whatever asses they have and not work. This would be a benefit to the market if we just paid them and did nothing. You see what kind of giant waste is happening here? Like, it's not, there's no magical, oh, it's been fixed. The government's making you pay for these people to get their jobs. And it's not even, and it's depriving that other country of being, having part of a fair market. And really, a consumer's will is what should be running the market. It's demand pull. If you want it, you get it. You have the prices that the demander is willing to demand it for, and how many. And then you have the price of the demander, and then there's the supplier and what they're willing to sell it at. And every time you make a purchase, those two things meet at a certain price value, and it moves around constantly. But that's how the market works. So so ultimately, it's just market forces that are a result of American labor that are causing outsourcing our jobs. So when your plant closes and you start working at Walmart buying cheap Chinese goods, don't be mad at China. Don't be mad at Walmart. Be mad at labor. They're really the people that do this. The people in China are just working. They're like, oh, we can sell these in America for profit. Okay. I'll be able to buy my children good Christmas presents or whatever. So, hold on just a second. Hello? Okay. So, the deal there is, when you get a workforce that demands an increase in price, and without increasing, they're not giving any more labor. They're just cost push inflation. That inflates, and it flows over into the other countries, and the other countries pick up the slack of that labor movement. Not that people don't deserve to get paid for their labor, but if it's not across the board, and if it's not there are natural forces at work with trade. If you do that, there's very short-sighted consequences. You're going to end up losing that job you worked so hard to get good benefits on. And you're going to be pushing carts at Walmart or sitting there, greeting people at the door. So, people always blame things like Walmart for these cheap imports, and people always blame the other countries, but nobody looks at the fucking people who did it, the labor movement. Those are the people who fucking did that. And not that they're evil for it, not that they were doing anything wrong. It was just short-sighted. They outsourced themselves, they demanded themselves out of a job. Because these goods have to be transported overseas and transported back. They're transported, assembled, transported back. We export cotton to China and then import cloth. Or import, shirts and shit like that. And we can even take a profit of that transfer. Those two ways, and all the international expenses of business in between, we could take that as an increase on our price, or we could let it go and do something that we do better. But you can't have both. You can't do both and still have a free market. And then you have a planned economy, and then, Karl Marx's retarded ideas, well-meaning but ill-thought-out ideas, have won. Same thing with immigrants. Our costs are jacking up so much, for labor. And then there's all these jobs down here that you can't pay Americans to do. You can't pay them to do it. You're just not enough. And cheap competitors stream over the border. Not to say that breaking the law is justifiable, but breaking the law is profitable, and they're doing it, and you can't stop them. So, and as long as that big gap is there, they'll always do it. So if you really want to look who took our gerbs and who's ultimately responsible for all them damn freaking people coming over to our fucking country and they're stealing our jobs and ruining America, all trying to be like, I just come to America and take the dream for myself. Isn't that what you wanted to do in the first place? Besides wiping out the Indians and all that other nonsense, but to step off the pulpit and get down to just brass tacks, labor did it. So, this is Matt, the Aborted Soul. Peace out, fuck off, and I've got a phone call to make, so see.